Sairam, and good morning. Welcome from the Sarvadharma Service Center in Farmingdale Borough of Howell Township, New Jersey. Welcome to the sixth episode of our Samarpan program, which we are conducting every month on the fourth Saturday. Today we have a very special speaker for us, and to introduce him, I would like to request Mr. Mahesh Velanki, who is the Vice President of the Center, to come forward and please give a few words for all the people. Sairam.
Sairam, everyone. Today, it's a real blessing actually for me personally to have the fortune of introducing my brother, my spiritual mentor, you name it, and someone I've worked very closely with for the past 29 years. And it's really a fortune for me to really give this introduction for him. But officially, just to go over his bio for Samarpan program, Dr. Rao is a medical doctor who considers himself extremely fortunate to have Bhagavan Sri Satya Sai Baba's grace on him and his family. He was associated with Sri Satya Sai Centers from 1983, starting in New York, and from 1991 in New Jersey. Originally from Hyderabad, India. He arrived in the shores of the US in 1975 to pursue his medical career. He specialized in blood banking and practiced and retired as a medical director of blood banks in New York and New Jersey. After coming to New Jersey, he was involved with several other Sai devotees in conceiving a Sai Center building and followed it to its realization. In that process, he had the rare opportunity of close physical proximity, presenting to Swami the progress of the project and getting his directions personally. He's also involved with guiding the running of Department of Pathology Laboratory and Blood Bank in the Puttaparthi Super Specialty Hospital, almost from its inception. Throughout this process, he enjoyed complete cooperation from his wife, Srimati Andavolu, and family members, and many Sai devotees. He is blessed with a son, Krishna Andavolu, a grandson of his and a granddaughter of his, and also his wonderful, sweet daughter, Satya Andavolu. He lives in Freehold, New Jersey with his physician wife. Both are doctors and both enjoying Sai Seva in retirement. Few words about Dr. Rao as we hear him today share his experience with Swami. Dr. Rao is I would say, a person who has, in the past 29 years of my close interaction with him, who has evolved, and he has shared so much strength around here in this one aspect, which I think has influenced many of us here, which is in both ups and downs. He always was repeating this mantra, it is always Swami's will. Let us just offer everything to him. And that kind of continuous, emphasis on that statement had a profound influence on a lot of us, actually, right from beginning. And there's one characteristic about him is perseverance, and that he never gives up on anything. I watched Dr. Rao very closely in many settings, including his interactions with Swami on the veranda or with anyone. And what shows is his faith and love for Swami is so infectious in the rest of us that it is really a fortune today for us to have this, this session today that he's going to share with all of us. So I would like Dr. Rao to share all the things that has happened today. It'll be great about this project and how it came about. And I think he's going to do a great job at it, but it is really very humbling to see not only him and his wife here, Srimati Andavolu, and his sweet daughter who are physically present and who I have known for so many years. And it's just a blessing for me to have associated with this great soul. With that, I do not want to take any further due to give the mic back to Dr. Rao. Thank you, Dr. Rao.
My most humble pranams at the lotus feet of the wonderful and sweet Lord, Satsai Babaji. Thank you, Mahesh, for that excellent introduction, which is a little bit more than what I deserve, I guess, but thank you. So what I would do is I will first say that I don't have any experiences with Swami that I can call them myself. It's really Swami who gave me those experiences. So first I submit all of my talk and contents of that to Swami for having given it to me. And I have absolutely no idea why he chose me for this and gave me all these experiences, but it's really my fortune and my family's, my wife and children's, that we are here today. Let me first introduce myself. I was second of the 9 children for my parents. My parents and father were very influential in my bringing up. And so that this talk will be, I will present it also to them for making me who I am. They say there is a padyam which goes like, Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat krupatamaham vande paramananda madhavam. In short, I bow to this Madhava, the Lord, whose grace can make dumb people become great orators and lame people jump over the mountains. That is the grace of the Lord. And this one here is no less. Swami is absolutely 100% capable and extremely kind. So that's what we're going to be talking. I'm going to be talking and describing his love towards us. So the first time I ever got in touch with Swami was when I probably was 12 to 13 years old. Came to know through a relative that Swami predicted the birth of my brother that day. In the evening, he said, in the afternoon, he said, in the evening, you're going to have a boy added to your family. And they will name him my name. And this I came to know after the fact, about 3 months after this child was born. And my first reaction was, wow, this is somebody with some powers. He's able to tell the future without looking into the palms of somebody or on the Kundalini or anything of that sort. So he must be something very special. So what I did was to follow him in the newspapers. In those days, very rarely, once in a while, Swami's talks and Swami's movements used to be covered by newspapers, Hindu and the Indian Express and things like that. So I used to follow that very closely. And I also used to hear him on All India Radio when he used to talk in Telugu on Bhagavad Gita. I was very impressed with hearing that, and then I was following him in the news. I distinctly remember the 1968 first international conference of Seva organizations of Swami. It took place in Bombay. Indira Shah was one of the conveners of that. And in that, so it was a 3-day affair, 3-day program. And the first 2 days, several people were talking about Swami, and Swami was talking a little bit. But the third day was totally for him. In the morning, he gave a long lecture, talk. And then in the afternoon, he said, I would like a meeting of the intelligentsia of India. So he announced that much before, so they got some, so-called intelligentsia into the audience. And so Swami said, okay, you can go ahead and ask me any questions you have. So I distinctly remember two questions that were asked. One was about national politics or whatever situation. The situation at that time was that there was a severe shortage of petrol, gasoline. And that was on the minds of everyone. And one of these intelligent people stood up and said that they say that you are God, you can create and you can do anything. Why don't you make the Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea and Indian Ocean into petrol so that people can easily get it, and there won't be any dearth. So the answer Swami gave was the only Swami can do. He said, yes, I can do that in 2 minutes, not a big deal. But somebody like you, point this out, somebody like you goes on the beach, lights a cigarette, and throws that match into the ocean. So what happens? So that was it. He just kept quiet and sat down. He had no other questions to ask or any comments to make. So that was one. The second one was more international. Again, in those days, in 68, 67, 60, in that time period, both Soviet Union and United States were on a big competition with each other for making nuclear bombs and nuclear bombs, basically. And they were making so many, they've already made so many, and then so that they could destroy the entire Earth 5 times or 6 times over. But still they were at it, they were still going on. So that was another concern everybody had in India at the time. So this one asks Swami, when is the nuclear war going to be? Nuclear war was a big deal at that time. So when is nuclear war going to happen? It's not a question of if, but if it's when. So Swami again said an answer that satisfies all of us forever. Said one statement very clearly, there will not be a nuclear war. That was one statement that hit me forever, and it stayed me forever. Because we, not only us, our generation, but the generations to come, a number of generations to come, don't need to be worried about nuclear arms. No matter how many countries go nuclear, I'm pretty sure there's nothing going to be as a nuclear war. So that was very interesting to me. And so that I kept on following Swami as long as I was in India. And then I came to United States in 1975 after medical school. In the medical school, you're buried in books and buried in other things. So that was basically it. And I forgot all about Swami, came to this country, rat race. So jobs, education, jobs, getting married, having child, all of this took place until about 83 or 84. And in about 86, 89 or so, my wife Vani took our son Krishna to India for about a couple of months. She wanted to take off. So they went, and I was alone in New York at the time. And I came to see a friend of mine in New Jersey. And I stayed over on a Saturday night. We were talking and talking and talking, watching TV and etc. And it was almost 1:30 or 2 o'clock in the morning. So we said, okay, let's sleep. And I went to sleep, but I couldn't sleep. So I picked up a book. Let me see. A book is the best way of going to sleep. So I took the book. I wanted to take a book, and I went to the shelf, looked at the book, and it was Man of Miracles. And I said, let me read this. And I was happy to see Swami's face and all of that there. And when I read the whole thing, it was so touching to me. I felt all these miracles that were mentioned in that book, I missed out on all of those. I felt very sorry and very deeply hurt that I was not able to see any of these things because I came to the United States. And so that was a very, that was a revelation that almost pulled me now to Swami again. And I came home, and then following Sunday or some Sunday, I was flipping through the channels on the TV, and then suddenly I see Swami's picture and a video. This was in Westchester County, New York, in 89 period, in the 1989. So I was very attracted towards that. And then Swami's miracles were shown in that video. And I said, oh, this is great. And so I found out where it is coming. And then I was going back every Sunday to watch that. There was one episode every Sunday. So in the meantime, around the same time, Vani had a very big urge to go to Puttaparthi out of the blue. And she took Krishna and herself, she went with her parents. And at the time, Swami, when they were entering Puttaparthi, Swami was coming out of Puttaparthi. And they stopped and they on the side of the road, and then they wanted to get the blessing. So Swami lowered his window and then blessed them, and then turned around and went right back into Puttaparthi. And later on, for 3 days, they spent there and they had a wonderful time, or more, maybe 3 or more days. And after she returned, we started going to Sai centers and got involved in bhajans, not so much in service activities. But in 1991, we moved to New Jersey. And that's when we started going to New Jersey centers. And then that is when some of us got together in 1991, 92, 93 time period. And we said, why don't we have a building for Swami's activities and for Swami's bhajans? So that started the whole process. And there was a student from Puttaparthi. He was a resident of Puttaparthi that was here at the time. And we all sat down and wrote a letter praying to Swami to let us build a temple, build a place. And this boy was there, and then he was going to India at the time, and so we gave it to him. And this man was here for about 2 years or so before that, and he went back to Puttaparthi. He was sitting down and having wonderful time with Darshans and Swami. He had this thing in his pocket. He totally forgot about it, and Swami comes and says, "What do you have in your pocket?" So that's when he picks it up and gives it to Swami, and Swami reads the letter and says, "This is a good project. You must do it." Those were the first words about this project from Swami. So when he came back and told us that, we were very enthused by that. And we said, okay, good. We got the permission now, let's work. And it wasn't easy. We went through all kinds of things after that. And then in about 93, 94 time period is when we made a first visit to Puttaparthi, Vani and I, and the children. And it was a very interesting thing because the first darshan I had is very unique. So in the morning, I got up at my time and then went for the darshan. And the whole place was filled with people. Not only the hall, where there is hall now, there was no hall at the time. And also the walkways next to it, the road next to it. It was all full of people. There was no space. So what I found was a little space on the staircase of East Prashanti building. And there were people there too. So I went there and I, craned my neck, and Swami was passing through. I had a triangular space through which I could see Swami, believe it or not. That was my first darshan. And I said, okay, now I learned my lesson. I should be here in the morning earlier. So the next day I got in earlier, and then they made me sit inside. I was probably 8th or 9th row, from where Swami would walk. And Swami came and he looked at me, and just for maybe 5 or 10, less than 10 seconds, looked at me. The feeling I got was a very unique one. it felt like Swami was looking through me into my past. There was a distinct feeling of that. And I said, oh my goodness, this is something very interesting. So my interest grew. And after that, that was the interaction. There was no other interaction. And then we went our ways. In the morning, in the afternoon, I went to the hospital to see what's going on in the super specialty hospital. It has just started about a year before that. So I went to the blood bank there, and Dr. Bhatia was the person in the blood bank, and he was very, very excited and happy to see me because he was hoping somebody would come and help him. So that's how it started there. And then the next day he said, come with me, I'll take you to darshan. So he took me along with him. I didn't know where I was going. He took me into the veranda, and he said, made me sit in the veranda. And I said, I didn't know what the significance of veranda was until Swami came, and then we could see him very close. And it was such a wonderful experience first. And then after that, we've been going there every year. And any progress that we made with regards to Sarvadharma, we presented it to Swami. Not necessarily physically, but in a letter, or giving a letter. Sometimes he used to take it. Other times we used to mail it. And so we kept him abreast, so to speak, of what's happening with Sarvadharma, his project. So it was going on for all these years, but Swami took some letters. He never spoke with me, and this continued until 2000. In fact, one of those days before 2000, Swami was giving interview to everyone around me in the veranda. Every day he will call a few people around me. And then I was the only one left behind after about 5 days or 6 days. And then Swami came that day and he said, so I got ready to get up. Then Swami looked at it, showing that this is the guy behind me that he's asking to come. So you should think of what my spirits happened. They didn't just collapse; they went underground. There's such a intense feeling of disappointment. So he tested us for 8 years, 7 to 8 years, and finally, in the year 2000, on our 20th wedding anniversary, Swami calls us. And we both go in, and we had a package of information that we had made until then about Sarvadharma. I took that with me. So Swami made us sit down in the outer interview room. There were other people like somebody from Nepal, Sushila, the singer, and several other people. So Swami spoke with everybody, and then he took us into the inner interview room. And that's when, as soon as I sat down, the first thing I did was to start massaging his right foot, because I was on the right side of his Swami, right leg and foot. And Swami, for a couple of minutes, he let me do that. And then he said, Ngazale, kucho. That's enough, sit down. So I sat down, and then this reminds me of why that happened. It was a very spontaneous one for me. I never thought I would do that. And I never asked him for permission. I'm touching Swami and I'm not even asking for permission, just went ahead and did it. And the background of that is that last month we had Bob Singh speak here. Bob Singh, I met him in 1992, 91, 92 time period in one of the bhajans. And he said he was very happy at the time. And he said, I just returned from, in his own typical way, I just returned from Puttaparthi Baba, and went on to say that he was massaging Swami's feet and putting his hands under his feet, and happy like cloud nine. So at that time, I had a real twang in my heart. I said, oh my God, I wish I could do that. But then never got a chance, forget all about it. And then the first thing that he does is let me do that. So that was the greatest thing that happened to me to start with. Then once we got in, after that is over, then he asked about my son, my daughter, and my wife. and all the, what they wanted and things like that. He asked my son, what are you doing? What's history? He was studying history at the time. So I asked, what is history? And then he answered, his story is history. And so to Satya, he said, she's intelligent. She's an intelligent girl, but talks too much. And then to Ani, he said, you have a lot of bhakti. I'll give you more. And it is through bhakti that you get mukti. And he, for the next 5 minutes, went on talking about Meera. And for 5 minutes, really, he talked about Meera, how she was dedicated to Krishna and nothing mattered to her. And then again repeated, I will give you bhakti, more bhakti. And, your mukti is through bhakti. So, and then he asked me, what did you bring? So I showed the Sarvadharma packet. And he went over the pages of that and closed it. And he said to me, Anta bagundi. So that means, Anta bagundi, this is all good, but you don't have money. That was his, sign. This was his signal. And again, this is something that you don't think of ahead of time, but it immediately came into my mind, not in my mind, it came through my mouth straight. Adi kuda meere chuskondi Swami. So please take care of that also, meaning the money problem, money issue. And then that's when he made these wonderful statements, which we'll never forget. Once all of us remember this for sure. Swami daya dini meeda undi, Swami daya valana ఇది జరుగుతుంది. 2 sentences. Swami's grace is on this project, on this. By Swami's grace, this will be accomplished. And then immediately he added, but human effort is necessary. So those formed our, that's our mantra since then. Let's put our effort, leave it to him. And that's exactly how this place today is, because of his grace and our human effort that he asked us to put in. So that was a great feeling. And then we got back and we were very happy about that. That was in year 2000. And in 2001, by that time we had acquired this land and then applied for approvals and came up with some plans and all that. And in 2001, the township approved our plan. And that was soon after Swami's blessings on this project. Then again, in 2001, we went and we submitted, we didn't have any interview, but we submitted the information. Swami took it and we came back. And again, in 2002, we went again. From then on, every year we would go because my interest was to also serve in the hospital. So in 2002, when we went, again, Swami called us for an interview. This was also very interesting. As soon as we entered in, he created me this ring and put it on my finger, and it wasn't going beyond the second knuckle. And I was pushing and it wasn't going. Then he said, push more. I pushed it and boom, it went straight. And he was telling the another fellow that was there, see, it first didn't go, it didn't fit. But now I said it should fit and it fitted. See? And so that was the about the ring. And then I was showing Swami what the pages were, and most of it contained the bylaws of the organization. And Swami was going through the bylaws very slowly, and I said, Swami, I'm currently the president, but we meet every 2 years. And I wanted to say, and then we decide who is going to be the next 2 years, president for the next 2 years. He didn't let me finish the sentence. When I said 2 years, we meet every 2 years, he said, "Kontavaraku meere undandi, kontakalam meere undandi," meaning for some time, you just remain there. Don't move, don't change anything. So that was our, that was his his order to us at the time. Otherwise, we were doing it every 2 years. And so that was a very interesting development for us. And then he also suggested, or he clearly said, don't use the building for service activities. Don't use it as my temple. So that was the the thought process was that it's going to be a temple and service center. But this put brakes on what we were thinking about it being a temple and having pujas and things like that. And so I asked Swami, can you please give some vibhuti or something to put it in the foundation? And he said, take some vibhuti and put it. And I also asked Swami's permission to get some soil from Puttaparthi, which I got. He said, fine, and I got that. And we put all of these in the foundation. So that was a great thing that happened. The next one, again, of 2003, we went, and again, nothing much happened except we presented what we had to present in writing. And in what happened in 2004 was really very significant. This is when we said some of us, maybe about 27, we thought originally, 27 of us will go to Varti as a group from Sarvadharma. And so we got together all of us, and we planned everything. Of course, before that, we wrote a letter to Swami for accommodations, for interview, and all of these desires. And we finally had about 27 people that we all made reservations together. Mahesh was there. Reservations, flight reservations, a bus from Bangalore to Puttaparthi, and then accommodation in Puttaparthi. All of these things were made very smoothly without any hitch. And then so we went there, and then we waited and waited and waited as usual. So, and Swami was coming and taking, letters, and I would say, Swami, we are 27 of us, and so on and so forth. And he would say, and then go. And nothing happened for about 8 days or so, or nine days maybe. On the 10th day, everybody was getting very nervous, and some people had already left by that time. And I was giving Swami every day the count of people that are remaining, because I don't want to tell wrong things about it, right? 27 to start with, went down to 25 because 2 people left, and so on and so forth. So finally, on August 6th, the morning darshan was over. Swami went into his room, and the darshan music stopped. Everybody got up and is leaving. People in veranda also were getting up and leaving. I said, I'm not leaving. I'm going to sit here until Swami passes, and I'm going to bug him again. So Swami, in the meantime, opens the door, and Swami is inside and looks through the door at me and shows and does that, signals me to go in. So I go in. I and Swami, we were alone. And I went on my knees, and Swami created vibhuti, put it on my forehead, and made a packet out of that. And then in the process, he said, remember, this is the Lord of the universe telling this guy, what I consider an insignificant guy, in an apologetic tone, with an apology on his face, expression. He said, ఇవాళ పొద్దున చాలా బిజీగా ఉంది, మధ్యాహ్నం చూస్తాను. He said, I'm busy this morning with meetings and all these things, but I'll see you in the afternoon. And he said, మధ్యాహ్నం 3 గంటలకు చూస్తాను. 3 o'clock, I'll see you. I was very happy. I said, thank you, Swami. I came out and I sat again. I wanted to see Swami leave to his room. So I sat there, and again, Swami came out on his way. He was going in golf cart at that time. So he came and he looked at me again. I was in the veranda. He looked at me, 3 o'clock. So he went, He sat in the golf cart. The cart started, looks towards me, says 3 o'clock. So 3 times he said 3 o'clock on that day. There's reason for that. Now I understand why. Or afterwards. Every day before that, in the afternoons, Swami used to come for darshan at 4:30, 4:45, sometimes 5 o'clock, and would go on until 8 or 8:30. That was wonderful. But people were waiting and getting restless. But that's why he has been doing, I believe, even before we went there. So for all these 2 weeks or 3 weeks, he has been coming only after 4:30. So Swami thought these guys are stupid enough to believe me, believe that. So so let me tell them. So 3 o'clock. So we said, okay. And then by 2:30, we all came and said, oh, the other thing that he said was, bring everybody and have them sit here, meaning in the veranda, and 3 o'clock. And so I said, okay, Swami. But I didn't really have the guts to tell the Sevadal that Swami said this. They would flatly say, in my opinion, they would flatly say, Swami didn't tell us. So I didn't want to take that chance. So I said, we'll all sit in the usual places. And Swami came exactly at 2:55. The darshan music started. People were all helter-skelter. Nobody was sitting there. The Sevadal was not ready. Vednarayan was not ready. Nobody was ready. And Swami's, the music starts. So I could still remember Vednarayan running and rushing to his place, and all other people getting up from their, afternoon siesta. And that's it. Swami started there, cut through the ladies' side, didn't go through the usual routine route of his darshan, cut through the ladies' side and came to the veranda where I was sitting. And he said, where is everybody? He expected all of us to be sitting there. So I said, was Unnar Swami, they'll come, Swami. And I called everybody and everybody came. So Swami stood outside and let everybody go inside like a great host. And while they were all going, he looked at me in a, it's not innocent. It's really, he wanted to test me here. So he said, how many? I said 21, Swami. I thought you said 27. So we probably wrote 27 times to Swami that we were 27 of us coming there. So that he just reminded me that I know you wrote me that letter, but you only had 21 now. Okay. So then we went in and sat, and that was an excellent experience for all of us. Everyone in that group will never forget most of what happened. So Swami created everything for everybody. Everybody had something or the other to go with. And one of the ladies in the group got an idol, a golden idol of mothers. And he created it this way. And Vani was about the level where she could see what's happening under Swami's palm. So she describes it as she saw suddenly a big flash of light and then became yellow gold. So that's the way it came. She saw it come. This reminds me of, that is what is said in the Upanishads about creation. For creation, it says, Akashad Vayuhu, Vayor Agnihi, Agner Apaha, Adbhya Pruthivi. So it's telling you that from nothing, Akasha is nothing, from nothing comes Vayu, air. From air comes water. From air comes heat, Vayor Agnihi, heat or fire. And from there, it becomes Agner Apaha, then it becomes water. And finally, it becomes solid. So those are the stages that creation follows. So what Vani saw is what can be seen, because you cannot see Akasha, nothing. You cannot see Vayu, air, but she could see only the light. So the light followed by the solid. So this is how Swami has shown us that he doesn't just do something magical. He has shown us, and this happened again with another ring of mine. So somebody else told me that. So this is a learning experience and learning lesson there we got about with Swami. Then we said, and somebody asked Swami, can we take some pictures? And Swami said yes. And our Mahesh, being the tallest person, he has to raise his hands like this. If I take picture, only half people will come. So he went up, and there was a stool in the corner. So he was going. He was so that was one of the photos. This is the photo actually that Mahesh took. So that's why you don't see him there. And he was going on the stool that was in the corner, and Swami, like the mother, says, "Babu, Jagarta, be careful." And Babu is what his mother calls him at home. So that's how he related it, and it's very wonderful to know that. And then, of course, then he said, Swami said, "You come and sit, somebody else will take a picture." Feel this, look at the way he satisfies everybody. So this is the picture where Mahesh is sitting now. And then he went over the maps and the diagrams of depict the building, and he was going through, and I requested, Swami, can you please sign on one of the drawings? He said, "Undu, I'm looking for the right place to sign." And then he signs it here. With love and blessings, Sri Satya Sai. And this is the stamp of approval from Swami that everybody can see. Otherwise, it was all oral. Now it becomes a documentary proof. And if you see this is signed just above where Swami's room would have been. And I was showing this to Swami and said, "This is going to be your room, Swami." And he says, "My room is not this, it is here." And he touched my heart and he said, "This is where my room is." And after the interview, he answered several questions for several people. Almost everybody had an opportunity to ask and converse with Swami. That's a great feeling really for everyone. And the interview lasted really for 1 hour and 40 minutes. 1 hour and 40 minutes. Everybody was waiting out, but Swami was having a wonderful time with us. We were having a fantastic time. And at the end, Swami distributed Vibhuti, and then we were all out. And of course, Swami stood at the entrance or the exit, let everyone go through, and then he came out. So that was how our group interview went. And Swami had not only blessed, but he signed this document now. So that was a wonderful, great experience that he gave to us. Then again, 2006 and 2005, we went and we submitted whatever was happening. He accepted them, but no other instructions or anything. But in 2007, we had in 2007 we had another interview, but this one was a very interesting one. The day before the interview, Swami saw me in the veranda. He went over the details in the book, And he created another ring for me, in which this is an interesting one, because all the time you see Swami going like this to create. And I used to think in the past, for Vibhuti, he works that hard. How hard should he be working for something solid, like ring and all that? This time, he really put a total stop to such stupid thinking on my part by, he was sitting in the wheelchair and his hand did not move, nothing happened. And he got this ring and he's putting it in my finger. So no movement. And then there is the ring. So, proof that all he needs to do is to think that I want to make this. He doesn't have now to move his hand. That's the story in that of that ring. And then the next day we had recalled as an interview, and we went into the interview, and that is when he said very clearly, వచ్చే 2 ఏళ్ళు రోజులు బాగలేవండి, 2 ఏళ్ళు బాగలేదు, ఏమీ చేయొద్దు, ఈ 2 ఏళ్ళు ఏమీ చేయొద్దు. Meaning, the days are not good, days are, bad days are coming. And so for the next 2 years, the days are not good. So don't do anything, in other words, about the construction. And it was halfway. We had the steel structures come and stand up, and then we can't go any further. And then he explained, this is what very interesting with Swami, whenever we have that interview, is whenever your interaction is, he explains us why he is doing this. He explained why he is giving us at 3 o'clock interview. Similarly, he's telling us here that America will go through tumultuous times. And if you look back, that is the time when the real estate bubble burst and everything was going down. And so, this is how Swami really saved us from a disaster, which probably would have befallen us. So that's how we got saved on that. So we were kind of worried after we came back here, how would we approach this with the township? Would they allow us not to do anything? And we were kind of very nervous. Rajan Bhai was there too. We all went to them, and we sat down and we explained that this is what is happening. So we are going to be not doing anything for the next 2 years. And we were nervously waiting what their response would be. And the response was, okay. So that was very easy and very, relieving to us. All they asked us to do is to put a fence around so that, deer and stuff like that don't walk around in this. So that's what we did. And for 2 years, we just stayed not doing anything. And the contractor who was doing this work until then also said, oh, if you don't do, tell me when you start, I will come. So he was waiting in wings for this project to complete too. So finally, in 2011, we started the work again. And by 2015, the building was done. And that's the bill. That's inauguration. That's not what I wanted to show. I want to show this one, which many people that got involved with our project, other than our members, our own members, and some of them are our members too, were all Swami's devotees. You won't know this. We didn't go to Swami's devotee asking for anything. We went to the architect drew the drawings, and then he says, yes, I know Swami. And so it turns out that his great uncle was the one who did the Purnachandra auditorium. So imagine that, right? So then the construction management company, we interviewed 3 or 4 of them, and we came up with JCMS construction management company. And they started the work, and then they were, and in the middle of some conversation, we came to know that he's from Bangalore, and he says he knows Swami. He has gone to see Swami a couple of times. And it was very, I was taken aback. And then he said from then on, he was not going to charge anything, and he didn't. So Kishore charged a bit, but not much. Umesh did not charge for most of the work that he did. And of course, then we have Naresh Lala for structural engineer. He's our own, Sai member. Sai Barade, who is sitting up there, he did the mechanical and electrical and plumbing part of it. And Vijay Thirmal was in electrical, and Adi Aleti were civil. All these people did all the drawings and everything that they required to do, all free of cost. So this really probably saved us $250,000 or even more. So everything was made, Swami made it happen that we get this for free. And of course, our Krishnamurti Kasturi was very, very instrumental in getting all the township permits. Turned out that he used to work for EPA, state EPA, and about a year before the construction started, he had been dealing with the township of Howell with their interests in the environmental part of it. And so he came to know almost all of the people that are involved in construction business, construction approvals and all that. So it made us very easy to go through these. These people knew that this is a good project and we should really help these guys. And so they were helping us at every step. And Mike Hussain is the one who is the contractor. This is the guy who stayed over, and he said, I will stay until you're ready to do it again or start again construction. So on the day before inauguration, March 28th of 2015, the building was ready for occupation, and it was the first phase. In fact, the second phase still remains to be done. So this is the first phase where we are sitting on, and it was inaugurated on the 29th. Professor Anil Kumar was here, and in fact, Professor Anil Kumar, to our surprise, brought us the Swami's robe with him while he was coming for this inauguration. We were lucky in that respect. And this is the first day of the inauguration time, and everybody was here. Several people from various religions were invited. And we had the fortune of having Ved Narayan do the beginning prayers. So that's how we really had the fortune of having Swami's guidance throughout the process, and it still continues. And what we did was to put Swami's words, what he has given to us, in a plaque outside of this room, and I just put that one in so that you can have a look at that if you have not already looked. This is one of the times that Swami, This is one of the times that Swami was kind enough to give me a very close interaction. And he took the letter and he looked at me and he said, he was expecting me to talk something, but then I didn't talk anything. I don't know why, but that's the way he wanted it, I suppose. Then that's about this, all the experiences that Swami gave to me and to our family with regards to the building. Now, I can clearly say that the only reason I think I could be that proximal to Swami is because of this building. Swami wanted this building to be done, and this is the guy who would not ask any questions. He would just do what I tell him to do. And so let me give it to this guy. That's the only reason I think I have been given an opportunity for this. So then I'll just briefly go. Do I have time? How much more? Okay. So anyway, I will briefly tell you some of the other lessons and some of the other interactions that took place, which really teach you everything. Every interaction with Swami, every observation of Swami is an experience, is a learning experience. So I'll show you one. In 1998, the hospital at Bangalore got started the year before. And so the year after it started, I sat in the veranda and I wanted to go to Bangalore. So I got up and I asked permission, Swami, tomorrow I want to go to Bangalore. And he said, why? I said, I want to see the hospital. So he said, okay. And then he turned back again and said, when are you coming back? You know, like the mother who is really missing this child. When are you coming back? I said, in the evenings, man. Oh, good. He was very happy that I'm not really leaving him for a long time, just the day. So this was that incident, which, you know, Swami was my mother. And I have other things that I want to share with you. There are a lot of things that happen when you're sitting in the veranda. And so those are some things which really teach us a lot. One day, there was a doctor who wanted to give Swami a letter. And he put it in his pocket, breast pocket like this, and forgot all about it. He was very excited about seeing Swami. And then Swami quietly puts his fingers into his pocket and reaches and brings out the letter, right? And then the letter is like this, it's folded this way. So what Swami does is he opens it like this, the second fold, and then puts it right back and creases it here and cuts it into two pieces and puts one of them, folds it back and puts it back right in his pocket, in this guy's pocket. And then he's now reading the other half. So the reason is obviously the lower part nothing was written on it. It's only half a page that the guy wrote, and Swami didn't want to waste the lower part of that. So this is how careful and very, very careful with material that he is. And then, of course, there's always some activity that goes on in the veranda. One day, he was distributing mangoes. So the student would bring in mangoes in a container, and Swami would take one and give it to one. And for the farther ones, he takes and throws it to them. They're happy to catch it. So this was going on, and then suddenly Swami does it very fast, right? So one day, once he picked up one and then threw it in, and then he realized that it was small. So he said, no, give him big. And then he takes the big one and gives. Similar thing happens with wristwatches another time. So he is giving wristwatches to all the people that are sitting in the veranda. These are men. And so the students bring the box with the wristwatches and opens it up, and Swami gives it. There are multiple wristwatches in the boxes. So he's taking one and giving. Swami is not looking what he's taking out from or where he's taking out from, and he's giving each one. And then that was finished, and he gets another box, opens another box, and then again Swami takes it and gives it, and then realizes that it was a lady's watch. So he says, hey, the ladies' watch, go get men's watch. So he goes and gets men's watches. And so this guy already got one ladies' watch. So he takes this men's watch and gives it to the same guy again. So that fellow takes it, and then he's returning the ladies' watch. Now that is a natural process for us, right? And then what do? Oh, okay, I will take it. But Swami said, no, keep it. So that really is the lesson there is, when you give something to somebody, never accept it back. Never accept it back. That's why in our whenever you give something to somebody in a marriage or something, they say, you give it and they say, na mama, I give it to you. Na mama, meaning it's not mine anymore. It's not mine. That is very common. And so the Swami is proving that that's what I follow. So give it to somebody, don't take it back. That was the lesson for that activity at the time. And sometimes, of course, Swami puts you in his Maya, and that's not unusual. So it was my 55th birthday, and I wanted Swami's blessings. So Swami came in the car, and I had a plate with akshatas and other things. So Swami looked at it and lowered the window. So I put the plate inside in his lap almost. And I put my head also inside. And he took the akshatas and put it on my head. And while he was taking the akshatas, his hand shook like this, very unstable, and took like probably double the time that usually he takes to pick up anything. And I did notice it, and then it didn't matter much at that time. And he put the akshatas on me, and for once I'm very happy that I don't have any hair, because every single akshata I could feel it. I was very happy about that. And then after I sat down, I recalled, oh my God, Swami was shaking. What happened to Swami? And I was very unhappy, and in fact, I cried coming out. And I felt very bad that Swami had to be shaking. He's not able to do things properly. So that was the Maya, because what happened next in the afternoon session is different. So in the afternoon, we sat down, and then Swami came and went and sat where he sits for darshan. And I'm sitting here. There was a nice breeze which made his hair go that way, right? And then he turns towards me, looks into me in my eyes, and then he takes his right hand, the same hand that shook. He goes like this, goes like that. So nothing. In the morning it was shaking. Now it's nothing. So that's what he put me into his Maya at one time, and then he said, "Look, I'm okay." And then another wonderful experience Swami gave. I think it was in 2006. By that time, Swami was walking with the help of kids, students. And one day he was returning to his room from the darshan area where he sits for darshan. And they had by that time constructed some metal barriers so for him to hold on to. And he came up to the end, and there was no barrier or thing to hold on to for the next 5 feet or 6 feet. And I was sitting right there. And he put his hand out in the air like this for me. And I had the chance to put my hand and give support to Swami. I mean, give support to Swami. That is preposterous, but I had the opportunity to touch his hand and move with him for about 5 steps. So that was a wonderful experience, which is very, I can never forget that. And that's very kind of him to have done that for me. And all these years, all these days, every day I would go in the morning and sit in front in the veranda, just in front of the Rudra Abhishekam that is going on in the temple, inside the mandir. Every day Rudra Abhishekam goes on. And I sit right outside, I can see, so that I had every single day, whenever I was there, I had this opportunity to be part of Rudra Abhishekam. It's very, I'm happy I used that I could have slept and not gone, but he was kind enough to let me do that, see them. It's really a great pleasure. One of the most interesting things that happened to me was, at one point in time, I was shaky regarding what I should do, in my job. So I was not very certain what I should do, and I thought of changing. I don't change. Whatever went through my mind, I couldn't make up my mind. So we went to Swami, and at that time I wrote a letter describing all my problems, and I had it with me. That day when he came for darshan in the morning, Swami probably took 10,000 letters. All you had to do is to extend your hand, even if you're sitting 10 rows away, he would wait until you come forward and give it to him. So he had so many letters when he came to the veranda. There were 5 people carrying all these letters. So everybody went in, Swami went inside the room. And then at the end, after a while, he came out to sit in the darshan area. When he came out, I was there. sitting, I had the letter and I gave him the letter. Swami took that letter and went and sat there. And, I looked out for everybody around. And then after a while, he started opening the letter. He opened the letter. I had 3 pages. I had 3 pages of letter I wrote. So he read the first page, turned the second page, turned the third page, turned the third page, closed it and put it in his lap, opened it again, read it again. 3 times he did that, just my letter. And he read that, and believe it or not, after 6 months of coming back, everything was settled for me. Everything was settled for me. Interestingly, what happened was, Satya and Vani were sitting in the ladies' side, and they were sitting there and watching this Swami doing three times all this. Said, oh, somebody is very lucky. Swami is reading his letter 3 times. They were thinking of that. And no, little did they know it was me. When I told them, they were really excited. But this is the attention that Swami really gave me. I don't know what I deserved, but yeah, in the past, I used to think, why is Swami giving me all this? Do I really deserve it? And once one day it got solved to me. I said, if I don't deserve, why would he give it to me? There are millions of other people that he could have, right? So obviously I deserve, so I'm happy I deserve it. And I got it, and he gave it to me. So that's how Swami has given us such wonderful experiences. It's very difficult to not to mention any of these, but still, there are some things that I forgot. We put our heads together in the last week, Vani, Satya, and Krishna and I, and came up with these experiences that we received from him. What I did was, when I came out of each interview, the feeling I had was, so I was so full of bliss that I felt, if I die this minute, I have no regrets. So I was so happy each time when I came out of the interview room. It was such a wonderful, just the right feeling within you that you have achieved everything in the world. You don't mind if dying now. So that was the great feeling. So I wrote them all down, and in fact, I put them in the, electronically, and then I stored them away someplace. Now for the next 4 days, I tried to find them. I couldn't find them. And then comes Vani with her extremely high-tech notes. So thank you, Vani. Do I have any time? If not, I can stop. Okay. So some of the questions that Swami answered in the interview were these things. One lady asked Swami, what can we do for Sai organization, Sai movement? Swami had one answer. You don't have to do anything. Just love everybody. Love all. That was the simplest thing that he said, really. People are always eager to do something, and, I need to do that, this and that. He said, very emphatically, you don't have to do anything. All you have to do is to love everyone. What a message, right? And he talked about how anger destroys people 3 times again. I don't know why the 3 times comes over and over again, but 3 times he said how anger destroys a person from inside. So, and then Krishna, Swami looked at Krishna, my son, and said, you're always spiritual. You have to be worldly too. You don't, and he said that to him very interestingly for us. And he also said, Krishna asked Swami, why is there so much war? This is an 18-year-old kid that's moved by what's happening. Why is war so prevalent, and why is it happening? Swami said, war is everywhere. War is also in the family. Take care of the family first. and then you can worry about it later. And he also told him, you can like beautiful things, but be detached from beautiful things. Appreciate them, but be detached. Don't get attached to yourself to that. And so those are some of the things that I thought I'll mention. So if there are any questions, I will try to answer. If not, thank you all very much, Mahesh, Sai Brade, and Swami. Thanks for giving me this opportunity. It gave me a chance to relive all the experiences that I've had that Swami gave me. Thank you, Sai Ram.
Sairam, Dr. Rao, that was a, I don't know, it's very hard to summarize the entire life's experience in such short period of time. But I think you've done a great job at reliving all the moments with Swami. And for those who are listening, I just want to say the experiences that people have with Swami, like Dr. Rao in this case, when they come back, that energy retransmits itself. I mean, that's how Swami works, and he inspires other people. And that's what I meant when I said spiritual mentor, and when his love and faith is infectious, that's what I meant. Swami's love, that energy transmits itself, and it is infectious. And that is the reason why there's so many people who are motivated by, and that faith with Swami, that once he said that, it shall happen. That was the most profound statement ever. And I'm sorry, I had to interrupt that. Sorry. And it's the most profound statement where he said, this has my grace on it, and it shall happen. And which is very evident. This is back when, and we can see what is happening. So that energy, and Dr. Rao, of course, forgot a few moments that I also remembered, but there are many more like that with him. His spontaneity is the key. And it is that faith that in some situations I've noticed, when we had to sign some very big contracts with contractors, we did not have any money in the bank. And the contractors' estimates were like in the north of 50,000, 100,000. These are like not small amounts, and no money in the bank. And he would just go say, it will come because Swami said it. Let us just sign it. Now, those of us who are not, having the same level of interaction physically or whatever, that proximity, you would question these things. And we had many such situations. And then over time, we got numb. It became so normal that, yeah, things will happen. And it has become normal. So even till now. So it still continues. And I think that's an example I just want to give, that how Swami works through instruments like Dr. Rao and today. And thank you, Dr. Rao, for sharing such wonderful things and reliving those moments. I hope, and you are continuing to do that. He's now teaching Veda chanting in the place, and he's continuing to show the same level of energy, sharpness in thinking. He's still the same. And I think it's all a blessing of Swami. And most importantly, I really want to acknowledge the family, because we know them personally. The amount of sacrifice that was made and not only by him, because he's infused with Sarvadharma. Everything that he thinks and does, he calls me for all the tech support issues for the computers. And you open up his desktop, even here, this computer you see, look at the desktop, you'll see everything on the desktop is Sarvadharma. He can't find his own bills, his own information in that stack. So the amount of sacrifices he made, and as a result, the family support, without their support, he would not have been able to do any of this stuff. So I really wanted to thank in this process, Mrs. Vani Andavolu as well, and his sweet little daughter Satya, who have seen in the same interview room how she cried and she chanted Vedas as well when Swami asked her to chant. And, and then we have seen Krishna and all that. So I think the entire family was together, and hence he was able to do all that. I think same applies to many of us. Unless the family support is there, it will not be possible. And now our dear Sai Barade, who's now the president, and his support from his own wife, Sahana, without that, he will not be able to do what he's able to do now. So this is the satsang that we are in. So it is a totally by Swami's choice. Every individual who is here and who's serving, it's by selection. It is not by anything else. And so being in that satsang is really such a great honor and for all of us. And once again, I want to thank Dr. Rao for this enormous friendship, brotherhood, everything that he has offered for all these 29 years and more to come, and many more years to come. Sai Ram, and I would like Dr. Rao to please come forward, and I want to request Sai Barade to please honor him.
Sairam Mahesh, this is Lata.
Lata, go ahead. We can hear you.
I just wanted to say it was very, very nice to hear Dr. Rao go through the timeline. I thought it was an illustration of the 3 Ps, a pure intention with patience and perseverance. And many times people whom we know so closely, we really don't know all of it or all of them or what was involved. Even though I remember the times where Rao went from place to place showing the Sarva Dharma symbol, and this is the building we used to have. This is what we are planning. So I'm very happy to see today's talk. Sairam.
That's so nice of you. Lata, thank you for their comments. And he's continuing to do that with this whole oxygen project that is going on. So. Wait. Let's just And now I would like to request Sahana to please honor Mrs. Vani Andavolu. Please. Brothers, that concludes the Samarpan program for today. And thank you very much for attending. And we'll continue on with our next program with lunch. Sai Ram.